Alright, Hazemeg here, and I got my new Rockshox shock all ready to go. We just, in the last video, we pressed the hardware in, alright? We installed the new hardware, and then I installed the new shock, alright? So in this video, we're gonna go test and see if there's any interference. Okay, so one of the things Hazemeg is worried about, I did this with my KLX also. I installed a different shock on my KLX 140. I installed a KX100 rear shock on it, all right? And I noticed, like, hey, it's got more travel. It's got more the shock is like, yeah, the shock has more travel than the old shock. That may be a problem because your bike was designed to have a certain amount of travel, okay? So apparently the FastAce shock has 3 inches of travel. This shock has 3.5 inches of travel. Now, I've heard people have been using these, but I don't know I don't know if that's proper or not. We're gonna find that out in this video, okay? So what Hazemeg is gonna do is we're gonna take the coil spring out, all right, and that'll allow us to push the suspension all the way to the limit, all right, up to the bump stop, all right. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna install it without the spring on it, and turn all the adjusters down all the way so we could move the wheel up all the way. And then we're gonna install the wheel, and we're gonna push the suspension up to its maximum travel, all right? And then we're gonna see if it touches anything, okay? So, because if it touches anything, it's all bad, all right? But I don't think it will. I'm not sure, but it's better safe than sorry, all right? So I'll tell you this: Hazemeg has a DR650. And when I was in Baja, I had it lowered, but I didn't lower it properly, all right? Because there's something you're supposed to do to the shock that limits its travel, all right? And if the bike is lower, all right, the bike sits higher. Yeah, the bike sits higher in like the stroke or something, you know, in the suspension. So when you bottom out, there's a danger of the wheel hitting the fender, all right? And if it hits the fender hard enough, it could lock up the wheel and you could go over the handlebars. How do I know? Because it happened to me in Baja, okay? That's exactly what happened to me in Baja. I hit like a bump or dip or something, and it bottomed out the suspension so bad, it hit the rear fender, it locked the wheel up, and it threw me over the handlebars, and I got messed up pretty bad, okay? and now I know, like, yeah, you got to make sure your bike is like properly set up and stuff. So Hazemeg didn't properly set the bike up after he lowered it. And after that, I raised it back up, all right? so it's in your best interest to have the bike as tall as possible, okay? So this doesn't happen, all right? But anyway, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna test to see if when this thing is at full travel or full compression, the wheel doesn't contact anything. And we will be doing this with the dirt bike wheel, okay? Now I don't think, yeah, the Supermoto wheel will have less of a problem with it, so I'm not really worried about that one. I'm worried about the dirt one, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the coil spring, all right? So I'm gonna turn this guy in all the way, all right? Okay, I'm gonna push it up, remove the bottom perch, collar, somehow. Okay. Move it up all the way. There we go. I don't know why this one it's harder to install than the original spring. All right, we're gonna set that aside. We're gonna remove the coil spring carefully. Okay, and so the only thing limiting the travel is the bump stop, okay? So we're gonna go with the bump stop setting. set the spring aside there, and then we're gonna go install this bad boy. All right, so I'm gonna go. First, let me go measure the travel on this shock, the one that's installed on the bike. Maybe that other one is different. I'm not sure, but I know this is 3.5 because I measured this distance right here. Okay, but I don't know what the one is on the bike. All right, I have the other FastAce shock that I bought off of somebody, but that one had 3 inches of stroke. Okay, so I'm just gonna go measure it, and then I'm gonna tell you what it is. Okay, maybe I should just take it off first. I'll measure it on the bike. It's cool. Yeah, I'm getting about, yeah, it's still 3 inches. Yeah, from the perch to the thing is 3 inches. Okay. What else? Okay, so here's the new one. Okay, so I'm gonna measure. Okay, so now I'm gonna measure this, the travel on this. Okay, so from here to here is nearly almost 4 inches. All right, if you measure from the bottom of the shock body to the perch, where the perch sits, yeah, it's 3.5 inches. Okay, if you measure from the bump stop, it's like about 3 inches. Okay, the bump stop's right here. Okay, so this guy, what this guy is supposed to, it's a bump out, it's a bottom out spacer. Okay, so when it hits this is supposed to compress a little bit. It softens the when it bottoms out. Okay, so it doesn't, so it's not so super harsh. Okay, it's gonna squish a little bit, but if you don't have that there, you'll have more travel, but the bump out, the bottom out will be much more harsh. Okay, so you got to have this bumper here. Okay, and if it's not in good shape, you should replace it. All right, because also your shock could get damaged if it moves in too much. All right, so it's like kind of a limiter, is what it is. Okay, so yeah, this definitely has a little more stroke than the other one, so that's why we got to make sure that this is all squared away. All right, it'll be happy, like nothing will contact anything on the bike. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take the old shock out and then put the new one in like this. Okay. Okay, so I guess this is gonna kind of be like a kind of fitment type of video first. All right, so the M8 by 23.88 is for this. Okay, but I found out this is like it's like less than 24 millimeters. Anyway, let me get the measurement, the caliper. All right, let me measure this to see what it is. Okay. Take this measurement. It's 24. I don't know why it's not fitting. Guys, it should fit. It's actually bigger than 24. Yeah, it should fit. It's 24 right on the money. So maybe I need to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so what I've measured this, it comes out to 24.5. So whatever reason, this side didn't come out the right size. Okay, it's supposed to be 24 inches. What happened? And this is more like 24 inches. Yeah, I'm getting like 24 for this one. So I don't know what happened to this one. This one wound up being 24.5. Maybe I got to mess around with the spacer more. I don't know. Take the spacer. Let's take the spacers off. How about that? Or I'll take the bushings out and I'll just measure the spacer. The spacer is 24, but with the bushings on, it's not. So I don't know. We may have to grind the bushings down. That's what I'm thinking. That, or I don't have this spacer aligned properly and it's having a very hard time fitting. All right, so I'm gonna try to figure out how to get this thing to fit the linkage, and then we'll continue our stroke test. All right. Okay. So kind of disturbing. So one of these bushings is 5.64 millimeters. All right. And the other bushing is 6.13 millimeters. All right. It's like half a millimeter thicker, and so that's the reason why we're half a millimeter too much. Okay. So I think we have to grind one of them down. Let me. Maybe I got them mixed up. I'm gonna go take them all out and I'm gonna go measure them again. All right. So they just, you can just pull them out like that. Okay. So this one, 5.6. 5.6. Okay. So these are perfect. 6.12. 5.6. Okay, so one of my bushings is too big. How did that happen? That's a good question. I'm gonna have to grind it down a tiny bit. All right. Hopefully I don't grind it down too much. All right. We gotta grind it down almost, like half a millimeter. So I don't know. It Rockshox quality control, guys. Rockshox quality control. That's all I can say, man. This is supposed to go out to 24 millimeters and it doesn't. All right. So it's just this one that's different, all right? So I gotta grind that down till it gets to 5.6. So yeah, just remember, like, if you buy hardware, it may not be perfect. I have to say, I think this is Rockshox's fault, all right? These are not the right size, all right? All of these ones are the same except for this one, so that's not, like, maybe they put the wrong bushing in the bag or something. I don't know, man, but I'm gonna go grind this down to 5.6 millimeters and then it should fit, okay? Because the spacer is 24, right on the money. All right. If anything, I can grind these down a tiny bit too. These are a little too tight. Okay, but I think I'll just do the one that's big first, and then and in fact, I've got two good ones. Let's experiment real quick. All right. So I think these ones were on the top. All right, they were the right size. It was a tight fit, but it fit. So okay, 5.64. 5.61, okay? Pretty close. Not bad. Alright, so we're going to put this on the bottom one. Alright. I can't have them all. I can't have one that's different though, man. I have to modify that one. Alright, yeah, this one looks different, alright? And then we get our linkage and hopefully it fits. And it does. Aha! So there we go. I found the problem. I found the problem with the hardware. One of the bushings is the wrong freaking size. I'm like, what the heck? How does that happen? Come on. Stuff is supposed to be precision hardware, right? Okay, so these are good, but the other one isn't, right? So I'm gonna take these off. I'm gonna grind the one down like half a millimeter until it fits, okay? Until it's 5.6 millimeters, all right? All right. So yeah, there you go. I've ran into a problem, and it's like, it's not Silveron's fault. It's Rockshox's fault because they're the ones that made that hardware, and it's not the same, right? So make sure when you get your hardware out of the bag, you measure all the components and make sure they're, the spacer should be 24, and then make sure all the bushings are the same size, all right? Because it turns out one of my bushings is bigger than the rest of them. So okay, all right, let's figure out. Okay. So here we go. This is the one that is still good, okay? And I'm getting 5.6 right on the money, all right? 5.6. This is the one that I just modified by grinding it on the bench grinder. 5.65. 5.6. 5.6. Okay, so that should fit. It's pretty close. I don't know, for some reason I thought I grinded it too much. This is some really hard plastic too, guys. It took a little bit of grinding. I had to shave off like half a millimeter almost. So 5.65. 5.65.
5.64. Here's the other one. Which one did I grind? I think it's this one. But anyway, they're both, oh, see, 5.57, 5.61, 5.6. Okay, so I think I might have grinded a little crooked. All right, but it's 5.6, both of them, all right? So I'm going to go try and install this again, and we'll see. Okay, and we're going to go measure the whole sandwich. And the whole sandwich is 24, right on the money. Pretty much 24.05. All right, so that should fit the linkage. Okay. Can't believe I have to do this, man. Rockshox. Give me a little grief there. Okay, there we go. So it fits now, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go install it now. All right, let's check out. Alright, ta-da! I sort of got it in there. I just got to put the nuts back on, right? So, I'm just going to lightly put everything back on. I'm not going to really, you know, put everything back on. That's what I'm going to say, okay? Okay, I've got the suspension all back in there. Now we're going to put the wheel back on. Okay, ta-da! There it is. So it's all back together again. All right, so we're gonna go do this stroke test. So Hazel is gonna make sure I have all the compression and all that stuff. Yeah, definitely the compression is the one that we're gonna be working. I want to make sure I turn that all the way down. I think just the compression. We'll do the studio compression. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna pull up on the wheel, and we're gonna see how far up it goes. All right. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, so when it hits the bump stop, yeah, this hits the license plate, all right? Other than that, it's fine. Yeah, the wheel's not touching anything, all right? So if we hit really hard, we might hit this, okay? Okay, well, here, let me go, let me give you a close-up of that. All right, so check it out. Here's what's going on. Here's a close-up. I'm gonna pull the wheel up. Okay, the wheel is fine. The wheel does not hit the fender at all. Okay, but this fender here hits the license plate, which I don't think is a problem. I think it'll be fine. I think I could live with that. It hits it and it bends a little bit, but it goes back. All right, so under really full compression, it's gonna do that. So we've got more travel now, guys. How's that gonna affect the drive line? I don't know. It's a good question. All right, but you can see it when the bumper hits this. All right, watch this bumper right here. Okay, hits that, it squishes a little bit, then it stops. Okay. All right, so I think we're fine. So I hope you guys enjoyed that part of the video. This video. So I had to actually get it to fit in there. It didn't fit properly. I found out one of the bushings for the hardware was the wrong freaking size. I don't know how that happened, because 2 of them are the right size. 3 of them are all the same size except for 1. All right, so I had to grind that one down a little bit so it would fit the other ones. I don't know what happened there, guys. So I had to fix that problem, and then we did our stroke test. All right, we pulled the wheel up through the whole stroke, and the wheel clears the fender just fine. I think there's about an inch or 2, so it should be fine. All right. However, this guy, all right, the rear stubby fender doesn't it touches this, it kisses it, all right, and it pushes it back a little bit. So what I could do is just bend the whole bracket back. In fact, I'll just try that right now. Okay, I bent the bracket back a little bit, all right. So hopefully it won't touch anymore. Let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Now it doesn't touch. Perfect. It's got about 1/4 inch. Maybe I did it too much. Let me bend it back. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Problem solved. I bent the license plate back a little bit. Okay. Even then, I think even under full compression, even if it touched it, it would probably bend back like that anyways. Okay, so and will we be able to blow through the whole stroke? I don't know, man, because this, yeah, you can only compress the spring so much. Okay, so I would say you can only compress the spring so much, so it may not go through the whole stroke. I don't know. It might bind up before it actually hits that bump stop. Okay, but yeah, it's good to know that, like, even if it went through the whole stroke, that 3.5 inches of stroke, this wheel will not touch that. So that just shows you how incredible the linkage is, okay? You've got 3.5 inches of travel, all right? Probably a little less than 3.5 because you got the bump stop, all right? And you multiply that times however much this is. Let me go measure it. I know. He's big is nerding out right now, okay? So for the distance from this wheel to this fender is like 7 inches, all right, from the top of the knobs, okay? So 7 inches. So because you got that linkage, you multiplied the distance traveled for the wheel by like double, okay? So just imagine if you didn't have the linkage, you'd be limited by how much the thing travels, okay? So that's why it's a good thing to have a linkage, all right? So because it multiplies travel, okay? The more travel, the better. Then you can, you know, you can ride through rougher terrain because your suspension will give, you know. It'll absorb more. That's what I'm saying, okay? Okay, so yeah, that's the end of this episode. So like I mentioned, I fixed that hardware problem. We found out that one of the bushings is wrong, so I fixed it, and now everything fits fine, all right? And then we installed it without the coil spring on there, and we ran it through the whole stroke, all right? I pulled up on the wheel to make sure the wheel didn't contact the fender. We got plenty of clearance with the wheel. The only issue is the stubby fender, and I fixed that, all right, by bending the license plate back a little bit, okay? Other than that, yeah, I think we are ready to go. So this shock is ready to be installed now, finally. So in the next episode, I will button everything up, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, here's the go. Okay, I'm showing you another way you can check to see if check the stroke on the bike is to put it on a stand, all right, to support the bike, and then use another jack to push the wheel up, right? So it's pretty much at the bump stop. We can actually take some closer looks at it right now too, since I don't have to hold it anymore. Okay, so you can see here, plenty of room. I can stick my whole hand in there. Okay, I can probably do almost 2 fingers. That's more than 2 fingers. All right. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, that's like three fingers. Okay, I can get 3 fingers into that before it stops travel. Okay, so you can see no more travel. All right, it's hitting the bump stop. All right, it may travel just a teeny tiny bit more, but it's not going to travel much more than that. Okay, and so our biggest concern was the rear stubby fender hitting the license plate, and I fixed that by bending the license plate back a tiny bit. Okay, it looks like there's nothing contacting anything weird here. Oh, what about this? What about this this triangle? Let's check out this triangle. Boy, that triangle is at a pretty extreme angle with the swing arm as well. And I'll say, I don't think it's touching it. I think it's fine. Okay. So yeah, this bad boy's got a little more travel than the FastAce one, all right? And I think it's okay. We got nothing contacting here. It looks like almost like the triangle is going to touch the linkage on the bottom here. It's hard to see though. No, it's not. It's not. Yeah, I could stick my finger in there. It's hard to tell, but I can stick my finger in between the... Okay. Plenty of room. There's just enough room here, just barely enough, so I think that'll work. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do my light mod real quick to see if that'll work, because it's gonna modify the license plate thing. It might modify it, I'm not sure. Okay, so yeah, the big ones are this one here and then that one there. Okay, so that one, there's plenty of room. There's no way that's gonna touch that fender, all right, or the seat or the subframe or anything. Okay, so everything is a good to go. Okay, another thing we could do is we could put the chain on. All right, we could put the chain on and see how tight or how loose it gets when it blows through that much stroke. He's actually kind of be interested to see that. Okay, so I'm telling you, Haze Meg is totally nerding out right now. But yeah, everything looks good to go. All right, so we can go install the shock on there. Now I know the shock fits properly because we've actually test fitted. It's in there right now. All right, we just got to put the coil spring back in there. Okay, pretty cool. It's a lowrider now, man. All right. All right, thanks for watching. I hope that was an educational and entertaining video. You know, that's the stroke. All right, with the Rockshox Vivid R2C shock on a Sur-On Lightbeat. That's the 10.5 inch with 3.5 inch stroke. Okay, so that's it at full compression, and everything clears beautifully. Okay, so. Another thing we could do is we could test. We can test how much travel we have. Yeah, we could test the suspension travel. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so right now we're at. I know one more thing. Let's do one more thing before we go, guys. Haze Meg is totally nerding out. I'm like, hey, I don't get too much opportunities to do this, so I'm gonna do it. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna go test how much suspension travel we have. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna use this edge right here, all right? I know. This is actually gonna be kind of hard. I just realized that now. Okay, we're gonna use the axle for a measurement. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So the axle, we can always repeat that, all right? So I'm gonna go from the bottom of the axle to the fender, all right? And I don't know, maybe we should mark the fender. Okay, I've got to make a tiny mark on the fender. I can take it out later with alcohol if I wanted to. All right, let's go. So I don't know, it'll kind of like swing that way a little bit, right? So maybe like right around here. Yeah, the middle's fine. Okay. All right, tiny little mark on the fender, and that's the one we're going to use for reference. Okay. So we're going to go from the bottom of the axle to that mark, okay, to the right of it. All right, so it's pretty much 13 inches, right? It's just a teeny tiny bit more than 13 inches. I'm gonna call that 13 inches, okay? So our first measurement is 13 inches. All right, and then I'm gonna release the jack, and then the whole suspension is gonna rebound. All right, rebound. Okay. Suspension is fully rebounded. We're going to take that same measurement. Okay, and we got 21 1/4. All right, 21 1/4. So what was it? 13 and 21 1/4. Okay, 21 1/4 minus 13. Boom. All right, so we have 8 1/4 inches of travel. All right, 8 1/4 inches of travel. All right, so we just conducted an experiment to see how much travel that the Sur-On Lightbeat has when it's fully rebounded and fully compressed. Okay, suspension, and we took those two numbers. All right,
and we subtracted them, and that gives you your suspension travel. All right, so the suspension travels 8 1/4 inches on a Sauron light bee. All right, I will look that up. I will look that up in the owner's manual and see if that's right. Okay, but yeah, we just conducted a practical experiment. Okay, so that's like the scientific method right there, right? So there's so what's in the manual is the theory, right? So in theory, the Sauron light bee has X amount of travel, right? And then so we just conducted an actual experiment to measure that, all right? And then the answer is 8 1/4, right? Now, and then so the conclusion is like, did we was it like what it said in the manual, right? And I will put a subtitle. I don't have the manual with me right now. I will put a subtitle below whether that is right or not. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching. Haze Big out. All right. So I know Haze Big was just nerding out on the suspension. All right. That is truly the light bee is just a work of art. All right. It is a freaking masterpiece of engineering, is what I'm gonna say. Okay. There's really no other bike out there like this yet. All right. At least for this kind of money is what I'm going to say, all right? There's more bikes coming out like it, but this is the first, all right? This is the first, all right? So, yeah. Oh, wait, so another thing I wanted to point out is that, so everywhere on the internet I looked, it said M8, the hardware should be M8 by 23.88 millimeters. Now, you probably could use that. I heard that you could use a smaller size, but you can't use a bigger size, all right? But I use M8 by 24 millimeters, all right? And I was able to buy the Rockshox stuff, okay? The actual stuff, which kind of bit me in the ass because one of them wasn't the right spec, right? But anyway, M8 by 24 millimeter works, okay, guys? I measured everything. I measured the old shock. I measured the linkage. What I didn't do is I didn't measure the one where the shock mounts on the frame, all right? I didn't measure that one. All right, but yeah, it fit it fit fine. It's a little snug, but it fits fine. All right, so M8 by 24 millimeters is perfectly fine. You could probably use M8 by 23.88 millimeters because that's almost 24 millimeters. All right, guys, but 24 is the right number. So let's say okay. The old shock uses 24, so I don't see any problem with using 24 millimeters. All right. And you saw it fits, all right. So I just wanted to make that comment right there. I don't know why people are saying to use 23.88. Okay, now I use the Rockshox hardware. Okay, I could not find a 23.88 in the Rockshox hardware, but I could find a 24, and I said, hey, if it doesn't fit, I will grind it so it freaking fits. All right, so that was my plan. But well, I did have to do some grinding. All right, but it's not my fault. It's not that I chose the wrong size. It's that the Rockshox quality control. So I'll say okay. So yeah. I don't know what other. I think MRP. You could use MRP from what I heard. I think Fox. I heard you can pretty much use any hardware you want. You could use any manufacturer, but I went with Rockshox because that's the shock that I bought. All right. So I went with the Rockshox brand, and so they have an M8 by 24. Okay. The other brands might have all these other goofy sizes that you could use, okay? But I use the Rockshox, all right? And it worked. All right, here's the out.